Ethan never believed in love at first sight until he met Jordan. It was a crisp autumn evening, the air laced with the scent of rain, when their paths first crossed at an art gallery downtown. Ethan, a freelance illustrator, had been sketching in the corner, absorbed in the interplay of shadows on canvas, when Jordan leaned in and said, "You see things differently, don't you?" That was 5 years ago. Now, their life together felt like something out of a storybook. Every morning, Ethan woke to the scent of Jordan's cologne lingering in the sheets, the warmth of his presence still imprinted in the mattress. They had built a home filled with shared laughter, whispered dreams, and a quiet understanding that didn't require words. Jordan, a successful architect, often came home late, but he always made time for Ethan. Soft kisses in the doorway, fingers brushing against his wrist as they passed in the kitchen, murmured goodnights that felt like promises. To anyone looking in, their love was unwavering. Ethan treasured the small moments most, like how Jordan always pulled him close during thunderstorms, as if shielding him from a world beyond their window, or how he absent-mindedly played with Ethan's hair while reading on the couch. Every "I love you" felt earned, every touch a reassurance. But lately, something had shifted. It started subtly, almost imperceptible. Jordan's phone, once left carelessly on the counter, now stayed in his pocket. Late nights became later. The once effortless intimacy between them had dulled, like a painting left too long in the sun. Ethan brushed it off at first. Jordan was busy, stressed with deadlines, dealing with demanding clients. It made sense, didn't it? And yet, there was Liam. Ethan had met him once, briefly. A co-worker of Jordan's, apparently. "We've been working on a project together," Jordan had said, his tone casual, his smile easy. Liam was polite, charming even, but something about the way he and Jordan interacted unsettled Ethan. He had never been the jealous type. But then came the messages. The way Jordan angled his screen away when Ethan walked by. The hushed phone calls that ended the moment Ethan entered the room. Still, Ethan convinced himself it was nothing. Until one evening, as they lay side by side in bed, Jordan's back turned to him. Ethan felt the ache of something unspoken stretching between them. He reached out, fingertips grazing Jordan's shoulder. "Is everything okay?" A pause. A long one. Then a quiet, "Yeah. Just tired." Ethan wanted to believe him. So he did. But deep down, beneath the surface of his own rationalizations, a small, unwelcome whisper had begun to take root. What if something is wrong? He didn't know it yet, but the life he had so carefully built was about to unravel. Ethan tried to ignore it. The gnawing unease, the way his stomach clenched whenever Jordan's phone buzzed. He told himself that doubt was the enemy of love, that Jordan had never given him a real reason to worry. And yet, the feeling remained, a quiet, insidious thing, threading itself into the fabric of his days. It was the little changes that stood out. Jordan used to leave his phone lying around, unconcerned. Now it was always with him, face down. His once-rushed showers stretched into long, locked-door rituals, steam curling from beneath the frame as the faint murmur of a voice, too soft to make out, slipped through the cracks. When Ethan asked about the late nights, Jordan's answers were clipped. "Big project. Tight deadline. You know how it is." And Ethan did. He knew the pressure Jordan worked under, the demands of clients who wanted the impossible. But he also knew that for 5 years, no deadline had ever been important enough to keep Jordan from coming home at a decent hour. The first Real crack appeared on a Thursday. Ethan had made dinner, rosemary chicken, Jordan's favorite, but by the time the food grew cold, his appetite had vanished. Jordan was late again. He hadn't answered Ethan's texts, though they had been delivered. Finally, close to midnight, the front door creaked open. Ethan stayed seated at the dining table, arms crossed, heartbeat drumming against his ribs. Jordan stepped inside, running a hand through his hair, the scent of unfamiliar cologne clinging to his shirt. "You're late," Ethan said. Jordan sighed, dropping his keys onto the counter. "Yeah, I know. It was a long day. A long day. The same excuse as always." Ethan's gaze flickered to Jordan's phone as he pulled it from his pocket. A notification glowed on the screen, a name appearing in soft white letters. Liam. Something inside Ethan twisted. He didn't say anything. Not yet. But Jordan saw the shift in his expression. "What?" Jordan asked, his tone edged with exhaustion. Ethan forced a smile, though it felt foreign on his lips. "Nothing." He let it go. But that night, as Jordan slept soundly beside him, Ethan lay awake, staring at the ceiling. His mind ran through every excuse, every possibility that wasn't the one clawing at his chest. Jordan wouldn't do this. Not to him. Still, doubt was a relentless thing. And now it had a name. Liam. Ethan's fingers hovered over his phone, the impulse to check Jordan's messages screaming at him. He had never invaded Jordan's privacy before. He had never needed to. But maybe this time he did. His breath caught. Then, as if sensing his turmoil, Jordan stirred, rolling over in his sleep. Ethan swallowed hard, exhaling shakily. Not tonight, but soon. The moment Ethan had been avoiding arrived on a quiet Sunday afternoon. Jordan was in the shower, his voice humming a familiar tune behind the thin veil of steam. His phone sat unattended on the nightstand, the screen dark, silent for now. Ethan's hands trembled as he reached for it. He hesitated, pulse hammering in his ears. This was a violation, a betrayal of trust. But hadn't Jordan already betrayed him? The weight of doubt had become unbearable. He needed to know. With a deep breath, he unlocked the phone. At first, it was just the usual, a work email, a weather alert. But then, buried beneath the mundane, there it was, Liam's name, a thread of messages stretching endlessly into the past. Ethan's chest tightened as he scrolled. Liam, I miss you. When can I see you again? Jordan, soon. I promise. Liam, last night was incredible. Jordan, you're all I think about. Ethan's stomach dropped. His fingers clenched around the device, white-knuckled. The words blurred, but the meaning was sharp, undeniable. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't a one-time mistake. It was them. An affair woven in stolen moments and whispered promises, carefully hidden behind late nights and unread messages. A part of him had still been clinging to hope. A sliver of denial that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't what it looked like. But now, the truth sat heavy in his hands, crushing the air from his lungs. His world had just unraveled. The sound of the water shutting off jolted him back to reality. Footsteps. The soft rustle of a towel. Ethan barely had time to drop the phone onto the bed before Jordan stepped out of the bathroom, steam curling around him like a phantom. He froze mid-step, towel slung low around his waist, dark hair dripping onto his bare shoulders. His expression shifted the moment he saw Ethan's face, raw, shaken, betrayed. Jordan's gaze flicked to the nightstand. The unlocked screen. Liam's name, still glowing in damning confirmation. Silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating. Jordan swallowed hard. Ethan. Ethan stood. His hands curled into fists at his sides, his chest rising and falling in uneven breaths. He wanted to scream, to demand answers, to break something just to match the way he felt inside. But all he could manage was a single broken whisper. How long? Jordan opened his mouth, then closed it. His throat worked around the words, but none came. And in that silence, Ethan had his answer. Long enough. Something inside him cracked. The man he had trusted, loved, built a life with, had been lying to him all along. The pain was unbearable. And yet, through the devastation, a single thought emerged, cold and clear. I won't be the one left broken. Ethan inhaled sharply. He wasn't done yet. Ethan stood there, his heart pounding, the weight of betrayal pressing down on his chest. The room felt too small, the air too thick. Jordan, the man he had trusted above all else, was standing just a few feet away, wrapped in a towel, dripping water onto the hardwood floor, and caught in a lie too big to undo. Jordan ran a hand through his wet hair, exhaling sharply. Ethan, don't. Ethan's voice was steadier than he expected. He didn't want excuses, didn't want some half-hearted attempt at justification. He wanted the truth, but he already had it. The messages had told him everything. Jordan took a step forward. It wasn't. Ethan held up a hand. Don't insult me by lying again. Jordan's jaw tensed. For a fleeting second, guilt flickered in his eyes, but it wasn't enough. Nothing would be. Ethan shook his head, the ache in his chest morphing into something sharper, something final. I loved you, he said quietly. The words felt foreign now, like a memory of a life that wasn't his anymore. And you threw it away. Jordan sighed, rubbing his temples. It wasn't that simple. Ethan let out a bitter laugh. It never is it? Silence. The thing about heartbreak is that it doesn't kill you. It feels like it should, like the ground should crack open beneath you, like the sky should cave in. But the world keeps turning. And standing there, staring at the man he thought he knew, Ethan realized something. He was going to be okay. Not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But one day, this would be a story he told, not a wound he carried. He stepped back, his voice quiet but firm. "I'm done." Jordan's eyes widened. "Ethan." No, he turned away, unwilling to hear whatever pathetic plea was coming next. He wouldn't fight for someone who had already chosen to betray him. He grabbed his jacket, his keys. As he reached the door, he hesitated, glancing back one last time. Jordan looked smaller now, like a man who had lost everything and knew it. Maybe he had, but that was his burden to bear. Ethan opened the door. Cool evening air rushed in, crisp against his skin. He stepped outside, letting the night swallow him whole. And just like that, he walked away. Not broken, not ruined, just free.